Hi everyone, welcome to another video, and today I'm going to talk to you about some common reasons as to why people overswing in their backswings and what you can do to help. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to see more golf related content. Let's get into it. So when it comes to overswinging the golf club, oftentimes when players get to the top of their swings, the shaft will get across the line or tend to appear to wrap around the golfer's head. Okay, something like this. Now, often the misconception is that people think that they're over rotating their bodies when really they should be focusing on their arm position and the positions of their wrists at the top of the swing. So in order for the club to start wrapping around the head at the top, there's really three things to look out for. So the first move is a lot of internal rotation of the trail arm. Okay, so that's when the elbow would kind of get really high and the arm would kind of move or point more inwards in front of me like this. Now the second part is that when you get to the top, the wrist, my lead wrist is in a more extended position so that there's more of a cupping in the lead wrist there. Okay, so that'll also cause the third thing, which is too much radial deviation. So radial deviation is just when the wrists are kind of moving up in this motion here, like this. Okay, so if you combine too much radial with extension, that'll allow the club to really kind of hinge too excessively at the top, which can contribute to the reason as to why the club wraps around your head too much. So if you combine those three things together, too much internal rotation of the trail arm and too much extension and radial at the top, that's what's going to cause the club to kind of appear to wrap around the head. So a great example I'd like to share with you guys is actually from a lesson I had the other day. So in this image here, this is a top position of one of my students, and you can see that he's demonstrating those three movements that I just described to you. So his trail arm is really internally rotated, his lead wrist is really extended, and he has a lot of radial deviation in his wrists. This is why it appears that the club is wrapping around his head and the club head disappears. So instead of focusing on his turns, what we basically did was the opposite of those three movements that I just described to you. So from the top, instead of having a very internally rotated trail arm, we try to have more external rotation, which is when the elbow of the trail arm points more inwards and towards your chest. Okay. Second, instead of having a lot of radial like this, we wanted to feel more ulnar, which is just less of a hinge. Okay. And then lastly, we wanted more of a flex in his lead wrist. So that would be when the wrist is kind of more bowed instead of having it really cupped. So instead of looking like this, when we combine those three movements together, it would kind of look more like this. Okay? So we made that change without having to change or reduce rotation in the body. Now, over-rotating your body can also lead to an overswing, so it's important that you can identify what your tendencies are, or whether or not you need to reduce rotation, or you need to just fix your wrist positions and your arm positions at the top instead. So by having my student kind of pause at the top and feel those three changes, he was able to make a really drastic change to his top position without having to change how much turn or rotation he has in his body. So with that being said, I'm going to share a really great drill that you can practice at home that will give you some really good feedback as to whether or not you're overswinging the club. Okay, so for this drill, all you're going to need is just a wall. Okay, so since I don't have a wall in this base, so I'm just going to draw a line straight up from my lead foot. Okay. So now you want to grip the club head in just so you don't make a hole in the wall, right? But when you're setting up, with that wall being there, if you make a turn, you want to ensure that the club head stops just before the club head reaches the wall. So if you do overswing, the club will touch the wall really soon. So you want to go very slowly. So whether or not you're working on reducing your turn or working on changing the wrist positions or the arm positions, this will give you some really good feedback as to whether or not you're overswinging. So what you want to do is you want to go very slowly at first. Okay, you can even look back just to make sure that the club head's just before the wall. Okay. Do that for a few reps, And that should really reinforce what it feels like to have a shorter backswing. So in summary, I think most amateurs will benefit by controlling their wrist positions and arm positions in order to control the length of their backswings instead of trying to reduce rotation. Thank you so much for watching, and if you guys need any further clarification on anything, please leave a comment down below, and be sure to also follow me on my Instagram at Jonathan K. Moss. But other than that, I'll see you guys all in the next video.